The information discussed on this program is provided to you for informational purposes only and should not be considered personal legal advice. Before making any legal decision, please consult an attorney. The law differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction and is subject to interpretation of courts located in each county. Legal advice must be tailored to the specific circumstances of each case. This is Legalese on News Radio 580 and 94.9 FM, Worcester's news, weather, and traffic station. And now, here's your host, Attorney Allison Cohen.
Hi, good morning. I'm Attorney Allison Cohen from Cohen Law Services and the host of Legalese. You're listening to News Radio 580 AM, 94.9 FM, Worcester's news, weather, and traffic station. Number to the studio, 508-755-0058. So glad you tuned in on this beautiful Saturday morning, June 18th. Carol Goodwin is standing by at the office, 508-366-8805. If you want to set up a legal strategy session, discuss any of the things that we go over on this show. We've got an incredible show today, folks. And I want to tell you so that nobody gets nervous. We're going to have these people back because there's so much to talk about. This is one of these, so much to do, so much to talk about, and never enough time. But I'm really thrilled because as everybody who knows who's been listening to the show for over 4 years now, we talk about planning. And I always say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But part of that comes from awareness. Awareness is hugely important. That leads to knowledge. Knowledge is power. That allows us to advocate for ourselves, for our family members, for our loved ones. And for me, it's very personal because, as you all know, I have a little girl who has Down syndrome. She's legally blind. And I've been very involved and active in the special needs community from the time that she was born. I also have a nephew who has autism. And so I am surrounded by all of these wonderful children in my life that God blessed me with. And I've been able to see their development, watch what it takes to go through that, what that looks like as a mom, as a community member, and just really understanding that there are great challenges, and yet it is a wonderful experience. There's no words to really describe what that looks like. And I'm joined in the studio today by three wonderful guys, and I'm very glad that they're here. Nassim, who is founder and CEO of Autism Behavioral Services.
It's Audi like the car. It's easy.
Audi.
It's easier.
Audi, even better. Okay, Nassim, Audi,
Yeah.
thank you. And we've got Dennis Vaness, who is a special education department head, South High. He's also director of Student Success Center at Anna Maria. He's an author. We've got Dennis Vaness. That one I think I got right. ABS Leaders in Training. And so all good folks here. We're going to talk a little bit about autism. We're going to try and touch on some of the topics that have come to the forefront today with bullying. There's just a lot to really reach in terms of what our goals are for the show. We're going to start with the basics. We'll see where we go, but don't worry, folks, because they're coming back, so don't get nervous. I know I'll get 1,000 emails saying, when can we have them on again? So I'm going to start with you, Nassim Audi, because I got that right. I don't think I did the promo right for him. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how it all came to be.
Sure. Well,
and you want to push it right up to the mic. Come right on in. Yeah.
Thank you. So my name is Nassim Audi. I'm from Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. I received a bachelor's in psychology at St. John's before moving to California and studying applied behavior analysis for about 15 years before I was transferred to start a new branch in Honolulu, Hawaii for a year. And then after about 17 years, came back and founded my first organization, Autism Intervention Specialist.
Which is located in Grafton, right?
That is my current company.
Okay.
Autism Intervention Specialist was the company that, in fact, we opened the doors of the first day that the law called ARICA,
right.
Act relative to insurance coverage for autism, was enacted.
It was 2011.
2011.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
January
Got that day
1st.
right. Yeah, so
exactly.
That's good. So we dragged you back to the brain center of the country. I always like to say that's what Massachusetts is, and I don't want to brag about it, but we all know this is where great stuff is happening.
You're absolutely right. And there's no doubt, if you do the research, that we have the number one autism insurance reform law in the country.
Right.
There was one other state that matched us. However, unfortunately, they've made changes. And so, yeah.
And tell us just, Nassim, what does the new law provide? Because it provides a lot in terms of, where we're going in mass health and coverage. But can you just give us a little synopsis?
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought up mass health because in 2011, ERICA only covered private insurers. So private insurances like Blue Cross, UBH, Aetna, Cigna.
Right.
They had to cover. However, these poor Mass Health families, their neighbors were receiving help for their children,
right,
but they weren't. It wasn't until October 1st, 2015 that Mass Health actually started covering. So we're talking less than a year.
So we've made transformations. We're fundamentally changing the way we look at autism through inclusion, not just from a standpoint of services, but also from the provision financially, because it can be incredibly expensive. And when I was looking at some of the cost for a family that has a child with autism, it looked like it ranges up to $60,000 a year. But Nassim, tell us about what you guys do, because it's phenomenal.
Thank you. Yes, the costs are astronomical, and no one can really afford it on their own. So we're happy that Mass Health now covers. So most of the state is actually covered. So that's good.
Again, the brain center of the country. We got it first. So that's good stuff. First. Yeah,
absolutely. So we, in fact, have what we like to call a three-tiered model. It's the only three-tiered model in Massachusetts, and I believe New England, where we have three different centers, and they are each designated for specific ages and developmental levels. So we have a center in Northborough,
okay,
which is for our Leaders in Training program. That is our adolescent group. It's a very important group and what we feel is a neglected group, as those who have been following the news know that these teenagers with Asperger's are prone to being made fun of at school, and it can lead to dire consequences. So the fact that I'm sitting next to Mr. David Labby here, who knocked on my door and said, I have a great idea.
Right.
I asked him for a proposal, which was beautiful. We went with it, and before we knew it, we had enough families to open up our own private office for them in Northborough. So in addition to that, Autism Behavioral Services has a 6 to 14-year-old program, age-wise, in North Grafton, Massachusetts. We have groups for, again, every age and every developmental level. We have a girls group. We have what we call a Teens Adapt group. Socialization, community-based program. And what other providers, I believe, have difficulty doing is creating the groups, but more so maintaining those groups. Not putting, a 16-year-old male with a, 5-year-old female. The dynamics have to be such so that it works, so that when the parent comes in, they don't say, I'm not coming back. And, that's what we've been able to...
a real level of sensitivity. I mean, you guys are doing such great work, Nassim. I'm so glad
you're here.
And
finally, ABC is 0 to 5, and that's in Worcester. That's early intervention.
Which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ronald Reagan, I know when, I talk about on this show a lot. Sophia, I have a little girl with Down syndrome. Understanding what early intervention meant for her, it changed her life.
Everything.
And they said to me at that time, we were living in Georgia, they said, I think you were the fastest one to ever work through the system. I had therapies in place for her at 6 weeks old, so it was amazing. Yeah, I mean, I had physical therapy, occupational therapy, vision therapy, speech therapy, and it's changed who she is as a person. So early intervention is huge. But you guys are looking at the full spectrum. We're talking about a lifelong approach to managing, handling, helping families, helping communities, serving folks and their families with children with disabilities.
You have to. You mentioned earlier the costs.
Right.
The reason why 43 states have passed these autism insurance reform laws is, in fact, it is much better for them to have their insurances pay for this than for them to have to increase their funding for later for these children who will become teenagers and adults that will need homes. They will need facilities, and that's much more expensive. So being proactive and initiating these laws is it's what the field needs.
It is. I did a couple of more just some research on some of the statistics, because I think it's important for people to understand what the stats are before we go to break. So autism now affects, and please correct me, Nassim, if I'm wrong, 1 in 68 children. It says the rate's grown steadily over the past 2 years. Boys are 4 times more likely to have autism than girls. It's the fastest growing developmental disorder, yet the most underfunded.
You're absolutely right. All 5 points.
Okay. All right, good. It says autism, different in every child. No two are alike.
There's a saying, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
Yes, I love that. About 40% of children with autism, they say, are nonverbal, so they do not speak, which creates a whole nother challenge for parents that are going through that.
Absolutely. And some of them don't have communication in addition to speaking or verbal language.
Right.
So the inability to even sign or point. So even communication will make that even more challenging.
So we're going to go to break, but I don't want anybody to go anywhere. Feel free to call in. I know you're all on the edge of your chairs because I know how this audience works. 508-755-0058. We're coming back with Nassim Audi, Dennis Finesse, David Labby, all good stuff here on Legalese this morning, so please don't go anywhere. You're listening to News Radio, 580 AM, 94.9 FM, Worcester's news, weather, and traffic station. I'm attorney Allison Cohen from Cohen Law Services and the host of Legalese. You're listening to News Radio 580 AM, 94.9 FM, Worcester's news, weather, and traffic station. Number to the studio, 508-755-0058. If you have a question about autism behavioral services, we are here at the studios today. You can always email me, of course. Everybody knows it, attorneys@cohenlawservices.com. I imagine I'm going to get tons of emails when this show is over. Please don't be nervous, folks. We're going to have all these three wonderful men back to the studio, so I don't want you to feel like you're not going to be able to get enough, which I'm already feeling that way as I'm sitting here on the edge of my chair. So I'm going to talk a little bit now to Dennis Finesse, who is an author. He has published 6 children's books. One of the ones I'm looking at right now, I Am Special Too, for special needs kids. My daughter's up at the studios. He already got her reading on one while she was waiting out in the lobby. And he's also a special education department head for South High, director of Student Success Center at Anna Maria. So I want to welcome you to the show, Dennis. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in doing what you're doing.
Well, I 1990, and actually the fall of 1990, I went to Anna Maria College and up here in Paxton, Massachusetts.
All good local stuff. I like that, Dennis. Yeah,
absolutely. And I knew I wanted to teach or I wanted to work with children, and I actually became an elementary education major. And through my first 4 years of education, things started to turn when I experienced my student teaching in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. It was a really smooth experience for about 10 weeks in the fall of 1993. And about 10 weeks in...
You're killing us, Dennis. You're dating us all. Okay, yeah, that's all right. I'm just kidding.
I was 5 at the time.
I was 6, right, yeah.
But in the fall of 1993, about 10 weeks in, we had a special needs student move in, which was really one of the first special needs students included in the classroom. And that presented a great challenge that I actually didn't know how to work with at the time. And one of the things that I learned, I didn't necessarily know how to work with the student academically, behavioral, and all the little ins and outs. But the main thing that I learned is it was important to make a connection with the student.
Right.
Once the connection was made, I learned that now we could start to learn the other things and put those things in place. Afterwards, when I graduated, I started working at the Devereux School in Rutland. I worked there for a couple of years, initially as a paraprofessional and then a special needs teacher.
Right.
And they just have so many great resources up there, great experiences. I think a lot of the things that I've been in special education ever since. I've spent the last 18 years in the city of Worcester, working at South High in an alternative school as well. And I've been at 19 years at Anna Maria College, running the Student Success Center and teaching students and how to teach special needs students. So how the transition came to being an author is a lot of the students that I've had in college classes, when we start talking about disabilities, they're like, well, the first thing they want to know, which I'd want to know as well, what can't the students do?
Right.
And my key to, which I think success is a teacher and working with students, is finding out what they're good at, accenting those unique qualities, elevating the self-esteem, making the connection, and then you're able to start focus on what needs to be improved.
Right.
So that is in all of my books. There's obviously, it's specific to a disability. It may be something visual the students can see. It may be something they know or look at. We talk about what are the things that, some of the complications or obstacles the individual deals with. But more so, my motto here from me all the time is I'm out here trying to create awareness, which leads to acceptance,
right,
which has led to this connection with Nassim.
Which is really wonderful how you guys have gotten together, all of you, to really put your efforts to, like you said, increasing awareness. I'm privileged to sit down with all of you because I know what hard work it is, and I know how personal it can get, and what that looks like for all of you doing what you're doing, because there's a lot of other fields that you could choose, but you've chosen this one, and God bless you for doing it. We've got a call, so I'm going to go to the phones. Jay from Northbridge. Hi, Jay. You're on the phone with Legalese.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. I just had some questions. I belong to a couple of things on Facebook that, autism, like for help and things like that. And there's a lot of talk about chelation therapy and how that's actually helping almost to cure a lot of these kids. Do you have any information about that?
I'm going to let whoever wants to take that one.
I will take that. Okay, so we have a family who has used it and who has seen beneficial results. If you were to look up the statistics, you would see that it's recommended against. And it's been recommended against more so in recent times. However...
For what reason?
We practice applied behavior analysis. It's the only scientifically proven behavioral method. So we don't delve into a lot of the non-scientifically proven methods. However, we do research and we do, find what is out there that is backed by the CDC and what is, approved by insurances or, funded and popular. And we follow the peer-based studies. And what they say is that it's harmful. They go into a variety of different reasons, and some of them are contradicting. I mean, this isn't, it's a new it's a new product or a new service, and so there isn't even a specific answer that I can tell you. Other than what you can easily find about the negative effects of it. But again, on the other side of it, there's a family that I know that has succeeded. The same with horse therapy and music therapy.
Right.
They're not scientifically proven, but they work for some people.
Right.
And really, that's all that we can say. We can't recommend it as behavior analysts, as behaviorologists. We can only recommend scientifically proven methods, but we can share our thoughts on what we think on chelation and such interventions.
I appreciate the question, Jay. You said you had more than one. Did you want to follow up?
Well, the other thing was that according to the people I've been talking to, like I said, it's a group that I belong to on Facebook, and they say that a lot of the kids that are coming up with autism, it's due to heavy metal poisoning. Do you know anything about that?
Okay, take that one, Nassim, please. Go right ahead.
Wow. I think you've probably just asked the most heated, difficult question that exists. And anybody in the field of autism knows that is a hot topic issue. You're either for vaccines or you're not. I'm not going to give my opinion today because I don't want to make any enemies. I don't need to make more friends. I just want to stay neutral. Okay. So what I would say is consult your doctor. And also what I'll say is the evidence is showing that if you spread the vaccines out over time, if you don't take all of them together, like, we
4 or 5 at once. Yeah.
I was just going to say.
Which I want to tell you, Nassim, I did this with my children only because I couldn't stand to see them get that many shots. So I'd say, I'll come back in 4 months. We'll do a couple more. They're all been immunized. They're all up to date. Mm-hmm. But that was just my instinct. Whether it wasn't based on any behavioral science, any applied science, all the good stuff you guys are doing, because it's great research. And don't forget to give your website information.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll just end by saying again, I just don't want to give you what side I'm on, because the company can easily create enemies. There are people who are very, very passionate about this subject. They absolutely believe that it caused their children's autism, or they don't believe that. And so, again, what I tell you is look at peer-reviewed research. Look at what has been scientifically proven. If there are celebrities out there that are saying this happened and this happened, are they a celebrity or are they a doctor? Do they have experience in this? Maybe, yes. They have a child with autism. Have they done the research? Maybe. These are all questions that you have to find out for yourself and do the research. And ABS-ABA is our website. Thank you for allowing us to plug it. ABS stands for Autism Behavioral Services. ABA is the scientifically proven method that we utilize. Therefore, absaba.com.
Thank you for the call, Jay. Have a great day. David, I want to turn to you for a minute. Maybe you can sort of scoot in over here because I think it's important that we get your input on really what you're doing. So you're leaders in training. I think that's part of transitioning from where we first start. We come from early intervention, then the kids come up a little bit. They're then at some point where we've got to look at a full-on integration, what that looks like for their life moving forward. Tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are.
Well, my name is David Labby. I'm the Teen Leaders in Training Coordinator at ABS. The Leaders in Training program is about empowering the autism community by highlighting their capabilities and challenging their deficits. We provide the opportunity for personal development through individual exploration and teamwork in real-life scenarios and our social community programs. In high school settings, kids may feel undervalued and judged by their peers. At ABS, we give them the opportunity to shine. We give them the tools and we put them to work, and we give them an opportunity to through that medium to feel better about themselves.
Which is, it's so important with everything that's going on right now in schools. I know we've sort of touched on this just a bit, Nassim and I, over this past week, in terms of this tragic suicide that just occurred. I'm still, grappling with it, to be honest, because I wear a lot of hats. I've been involved this year, unfortunately, with a lot of social cyberbullying in schools. And it's been devastating for me to watch as a parent, as a trustee of the Advanced Math and Science Academy Charter School. This is widespread, but when children of special needs are subject to this, it only just double down on how hard it is to have to contend, transition through growing up. How do we do that as parents to make sure that our kids are doing the right things, that they have a moral compass, that it's being done with integrity? Nassim, tell us a little bit about it. I feel like we need to talk a little bit about it today.
Sure.
Oh, Dave, we're almost at break. All right, he's going to give me the 1 minute start, but we're going to come back.
Sure.
We need to.
No problem. You want to
I want you to start. We got a couple minutes.
Okay, I'll try to say this quickly.
So
in 2016, January 1st, the board reversed the ruling of allowing children and teenagers to be shown on social media. We had that ability with parent consent. They removed that ability. They told us a year ago. I wrote them for about a year telling them that is not the way to go, that the way that we have made progress with every single one of our teenagers is by posting them on Facebook, saying incredible things about them, and they would run home and they could not wait to see the reinforcement that they were not receiving anywhere else.
Right.
And in fact, they were receiving the opposite. They were sitting in a corner with their hoods on, trying to just not be made fun of.
Right.
But when their friends saw them playing guitars and making baskets from 100 feet away, they wanted to be their friends. And now they're the cool people. They're the people who are beautiful and going to the prom. All of this is on our site. It's on our Facebook site, which, again, can be accessed through absaba.com.
You can't say that enough, Nassim.
It's so important. It's so important that we highlight and we give them what David mentioned earlier that they do not have, which is positive reinforcement.
Right.
They hear it from their parents, but what does that mean to them? They want to hear it from other people.
It's always peer review. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. There is so much more to come. Tell your neighbors. I know that we are already, I can tell you right now because I've got a good sense of this. If you're missing the show, you're missing a tremendous amount. The good news is we have them all podcast, so you can always go back and re-listen. But tune in, stick around, don't go anywhere. You're listening to Lady Law and Legalese, News Radio 580 AM, 94.9 FM, Worcester's news, weather, and traffic station. Hi, welcome back. I'm attorney Allison Cohen from Cohen Law Services and the host of Legalese. You're listening to News Radio 580 AM, 94.9 FM, Worcester's news, weather, and traffic station. Number to the studio, 508-755-0058. I almost forgot at the beginning of the show to let everybody know I'm doing my next Lady Law workshop on September 10th. My communications director, God bless her, Jackie Thompson, is sitting here saying, why didn't you introduce it? You were supposed to tell everybody. This was the big introduction today, and it couldn't be a better time to do it. It's going to be at the DoubleTree Hilton Hotel from 8:30 to 1. It's on a Saturday. For everybody that attended my last workshop, it was a huge success. We're really excited because this is all about promoting awareness. I'm going to be talking about certain aspects of planning, the legal process in terms of what that might look like, supplemental needs trusts. I've got somebody coming from Mass Mutual. He's going to talk about really the financial end of it and how do you fund a lifelong plan of care with kids that have special needs. And then we've got somebody coming from government benefits. She's going to talk about all the different kind of benefits you can get, how you look at SSI versus SSDI, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever that may be. There is a lot to it. So it's going to be a jam-packed workshop, and I'm excited. September 10th. We'll talk more about it over the next couple of months, but I did want to introduce it now when I'm sitting here with all these wonderful folks. And we got a question during the break from a woman who was asking whether or not insurance pays for evaluations for the diagnosis of autism. And I'm going to turn to Nassim to give us a response on that.
Sure. I'd be happy to give a response. Do we have her on the line for clarification for...
No, but I'm sure she's listening, Nassim.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I'll quickly talk about both. Private insurance, absolutely. And are the waiting lists shorter? Absolutely. If you have Mass Health, you're probably going to find that you'll be on the waiting list for 9 to 12 months. UInc, Youth Opportunities Upheld Incorporated, is where I completed my doctoral internship, and they do accept Mass Health. They also refer families to their sister organizations that accept Mass Health, should you have Mass Health. If you have private insurance, once again, call around. Don't accept the first doctor that says you need to wait 6 months. You may get a doctor that is going to put you down for the next cancellation, or just had a cancellation, and you may end up getting a neuro evaluation within a week. So
which is it's working through the system, right? It's all about advocating, which is part of what my show does. It teaches consumers how to advocate for themselves and their loved ones, because knowledge is power. I always say at Cohen Law Services, it's not like kryptonite to us. We like knowledge. We like to bring good people on. We've got them here this morning. I'm going to turn to Dennis Vaness. I want to talk to you a little bit about these wonderful books that you have written, that have been published. They're just incredible, and I feel privileged to be sitting next to you, Dennis. So tell us about them.
Thank you. Well, I started publishing books about 3 years ago, and my first book is about a little boy named Marty. It's a fictitious character, and it aligns with what my philosophy is when, like I said, when people want to know what children can't do. And this book's called I Am Special Too, and that we repeat that message all throughout the book. Children look at the book and they see a child in a wheelchair, and they ask, what does a child have? And I say cerebral palsy. Right. And that's all they really know, because at the beginning of the book, the child is sitting by himself playing toys. And I look around the room and I ask kids who plays with toys, and they all do. Who likes to play with others? Right. So the goal throughout the book is, in each page, they see that this student actually has a unique quality, and he has something special about him that they all can identify with. So that is the hope, is that learning to make connections with this individual, they'll no longer see the disability. Right. They're looking at the person as a whole. And that's a goal through all my books. I published that book. I've published a book called Everyone Belongs, about epidermolysis bullosa, which is a rare skin disorder. At my first book signing, I met a little boy from a Tatnick bookseller in Westboro, Mass, named Ryan Summers. And when you do your book signings, you wonder if anybody's going to show up. That's a good location, Dennis. It's right next to my office. So you couldn't be at a better location than that. Okay, yeah. I show up for those book signings, so let us know next time you're going to be there. That's great. Well, he was there. He was my first customer, and we made a nice connection, and we have shared his message all over the world about epidermolysis bullosa, in trying to make students understand. First of all, when children look at individuals with special needs, or sometimes people that are different, they have questions. And great things about books is when they have questions, it creates dialogues. I mean, I encourage parents to read with their children books like this, or about very important topics. And what it does is they start to understand and comprehend what's going on. Because a lot of times children don't interact with a child with special needs because they don't know how to. Right. So when you learn how, or they don't understand the nature of the disability. So when you teach them ways to do that, and sometimes it is something simple as just making a simple connection. Now, what puts us here in the same room with Nassim is I had a discussion probably about 6 weeks ago with Nassim and Stacy Lavely about after Jagger. A lot of people know the story. He was at Oak Street Middle School in Shrewsbury, Mass. He was singing a song in front of the entire student body. I have the chills, and I've heard the story, and I've read it. I'm back to this again. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Every time I do. And you worry about acceptance of any individuals, and he's up there singing the song, doesn't necessarily remember the words, and the whole audience just erupts, sings, claps, cheers him on. And that is one of the most unbelievable examples of acceptance I've ever heard. So we made a connection. I met with Nassim, met with Stacy, and wrote a children's book. And we are not turning it into just one book. It is going to be a series of books. The series is called Jagger's World of Autism.
Right.
The book is done. We're just crossing I's, T's, changing a couple pictures. And the first one is, which really hits home with me, is Will You Be My Friend?
Can I tell you, for every student in that school, God bless every one of them, Nassim, this is what we've been talking about.
Worldwide news because of what they did.
Right.
Worldwide news. 5 million views on Now This. I mean, there isn't a website in the world that's been translated into Korean, into Mandarin. I mean, you'll find this story everywhere.
Right.
Because, like Dennis said, that's not the norm. You would have expected he would have been laughed off the stage by middle schoolers. That awareness that he's talking about is even strong. I'm sorry, the acceptance he's talking about is stronger than awareness. Because you need a lot of awareness to make a change, but you need a little bit of acceptance to make a change.
Right.
So Dennis's actual message is
awareness,
is awareness to acceptance.
Right.
Exactly. You're right. Yeah.
Really changes the platform of how we look at things, because awareness is only going to go so far.
That's right.
A little bit of love goes a lot farther.
Right. And the Autism Resource Center, too, that's their motto for their autism walks every year. It's the 5K run and walk for autism acceptance and not for awareness. So.
Nassim, when we think about ABS, the fact that you started this, what is different in terms of your forms of treatment? Give us a little bit of a background as to how ABS works.
Sure. So I'll just really briefly recap what I said earlier. 3-tier model. You can graduate from our 0 to 5 program and then move to a different facility and graduate from our 6 to 14 program and then move to a different facility and graduate from 15 to 22 of them. Now, that's really important because what is wrong with teenagers who have little children running around when they're very impacted and they don't want to be in that environment?
Right.
That is one of the main reasons why other providers cannot sustain these programs, because parents come in and the kids are complaining to them. They don't want to be there.
Right.
They tell Mom, Dad, I have these little kids running around and they're hitting each other and they're banging their heads. And that's not the population of LIT. LIT is smart. They're individuals who are driven, and like David said, they just need that reinforcement. They need that praise. And so that's what we do differently. I think that's what led to Sue Loring, the director of the Autism Resource Central, providing us with the
and she'll be here next week. P.S. By the way, so it's all good stuff. Yeah.
So while I have a chance to plug ourselves, I will say that she gave us the award for Provider of the Year, Outstanding ABA Provider of the Year 2016. And this is the Autism Resource Central, extremely respected group of individuals. And
give us the website again right before we go to break, Nassim, which is right now.
Absolutely.
Give us the website again.
ABSABA.com.
Okay, folks, listen, there's still more to come. Please don't go anywhere. You're listening to Lady Law on News Radio 580 AM, 94.9 FM, Worcester's news, weather, and traffic station. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. I'm attorney Allison Cohen from Cohen Law Services and the host of Legalese. You're listening to News Radio 580 AM, 94.9 FM, Worcester's news, weather, and traffic station. Number to the studio, 508-755-0058. Number to my office, 508, sorry, I can't remember my own number, 366-8805. If you want to set up a legal strategy session, you want to get more information on the wonderful folks that I've got in the studio today. I'm very honored and privileged to be sitting with Nassim Audi, Dennis Finesse, David Labby. I'm going to turn back to you, Nassim, because we were talking about at the break something that I think is incredibly important, what came out from this story that we were speaking about this week. Educate the people a little bit more. I'm going to let you give the lead in, and then we can go from there.
Sure. I won't mention the boy's name out of respect for his parents, but there was a child in California with Asperger's who committed suicide after leaving a note saying that he was bullied to the point where he couldn't accept it anymore.
Right.
The way that we've made progress in our LIT, or Leaders in Training program, from our 14 to 22-year-old groups, It's, again, all through social media. It's posting something about them that they just learned. They either maybe just picked up the guitar that day, but people are going to post, wow, you know how to play the guitar? That's wonderful. That's beautiful. And this and this. People love to support individuals with autism when you post something and you say, look how great this is. So when that ruling came down that we were going to be unable to utilize it, I had a long string of emails sent to the board, and I want to give credit to CEO of our board, the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, the BACB, Ira Ehrlich, for adding the words in March with parent consent, which means that gives the power back to the parents to decide, is it worth it to give a little bit of my anonymity to potentially have a complete change in my child, to maybe save their life? And so that's what they did. They gave that power back to the parents after removing it, only because they wanted to protect their confidentiality in the first place. I mean, it wasn't malicious. They were, trying to keep up with HIPAA regulations.
And you've got all those lawyers involved, Nassim, and you know when that happens, it becomes a big problem. And can I tell you, it's interesting because even from my own standpoint, for a long time, I was very cautious and not wanting Sophia to be photographed. And then at some point, the veil lifted from my eyes, and I said, this is who she is. I want everybody to see her. We hosted a buddy walk for her in New York City in 2011. At the time she was chosen, we submitted her photo. Her picture was up on the MTV plasma screen. We had 9 teachers from Grafton drove down to support us in the buddy walk. It was unbelievable.
I can't tell you how much I love that, because when children sense that their parents are hiding something about them, how is that going to make them feel?
Right.
You know what I mean? They're going to ask, why is my parent hiding this about me? What's wrong with me that nobody should know that I have whatever it is that my mother or father are hiding? So, there's a real movement to get away from not having the word autism in your company. I've had the word autism in all of my companies,
Right.
And so there was a huge time where that wasn't, it was frowned upon, because parents wouldn't bring their children there because they did not want people to know that they had children with autism. So your example is fantastic. I love to hear examples like that. That is progress. That is the awareness to acceptance movement that Dennis and David and I are talking about.
And I think, Dennis, you had mentioned, too, at the break, I love what you said about you see a child sitting alone. How do you tell other children, go over? Nobody wants to be alone. No, I don't care how old you are. We need interaction. We need to be humanized. We're all special. We're all equal. We're all children of God. That's my, not my philosophy. It's what I believe in my soul.
And what I think of is children, children want to be popular. They want to be connected. And the easy thing to do is to gravitate towards that crowd in school or at recess or in the playgrounds. And there may be that child sitting by themselves. So if, a message to parents to give their children is, have them connect with that child that's by themselves, because every child craves attention. And the second, you may be that one individual that connects with that student and brings all those special, unique qualities out of them. And that's just a great quality to have. And that's the message we should be giving our children.
That's absolutely, I agree with that 100%. Quickly tell us, David, how do you see that in terms of where you are with the age group that you're managing?
With our kids, we try and give them the chance to engage with each other and to make those connections, because it's our humanity that connects us. So with each of the kids, we have them work with each of the younger social groups, and one of our philosophies is be to them what you needed at their age.
Right. I love that. That's great. That it feels so real. It's authentic. Everything that you guys are talking about here today is authentic, which, I couldn't be more proud to be sitting with all of you. I'm very grateful. I want to go around. Let's start with you, Nassim. Tell us your information, please. Facebook, give it to everybody that's out there. We've got a large listening audience, and everybody needs to be following Nassim.
Thank you. I'm going to give you the easiest piece of information to remember, which is our phone number, 844-4-AUTISM. Don't forget, 844-4-AUTISM. 844-4-AUTISM.
I like it. All right. Nassim, website. Yeah.
ABSABA.com, 844-4-AUTISM.
Okay. Tell us any information to get in contact with you directly. We like all people's information.
Sure. Name is David Labby. Email address is dlabby, so that's D as in David, L as in llama, A as in apple, B as in boy, B as in boy, E as in elephant, at absaba.com. So dlabby at absaba.com.
If you have any specific questions about the fields or the actual leaders in training division that David's involved in, Dennis, hit it.
DennisVinesse.com is my children's book website. You can find me on Facebook at Dennis Vinesse or on Twitter at DennisVinesse1 for this wonderful project we have coming out. If you hit us up on Facebook at Jagger's World of Autism, Will You Be My Friend? And I'm honored that you guys are having me back here on August 13th to talk about more. And by that time, we'll have this project up and at it.
It's all good stuff. All right, folks, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. This is Where It's At on Legalese every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Don't forget to listen to me live on the Jim Polito Show Friday mornings. Stick around, folks. Much more to come. We're excited. It's all good. God bless. Have a great week. Lady Law, we'll see you all next week.
The information discussed on this program is provided to you for informational purposes only and should not be considered personal legal advice. Before making any legal decision, please consult an attorney. The law differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction and is subject to interpretation of courts located in each county. Legal advice must be tailored to the specific circumstances of each case. Circumstances of each case. Circumstances of each case. Circumstances of each case. Circumstances of each case.